Welcome to Back in the Future of Health session. We might have people joining us halfway, so we'll get us going so we can make the most of our time together. I'm going to screen share. So welcome back in the Future of Health Angel Investing in Medtech and Biotech session. Today's Thursday. We are in July, calling from Barcelona, some of us, others joining remotely. I'm Paula Nemeth. I'm part of the Startup Investor Accelerator team. I'm the operations magician. It's a really pleasure to be here. I will be in the background doing a little bit of tech support and helping Sarah really run the session. A bit of like housekeeping as we get settled in Zoom. Probably nothing new for you. Rename yourself on Zoom with your name and location. If you can, it's really great seeing where different people are coming from. Engage in the chat and connect and share insights. We really want, while the panel is going, for you to ask questions and make notes, comments, and to have really a live conversation as much as possible. And use your raise hand function to contribute during the discussions. We will have time for questions afterwards, but if while the panel is going, you have questions, I would love to have them in the chat as well. How today is going to run, we're going to aim to do for 90 minutes, an hour and a half. We're doing a welcome and overview, an opening keynote, and where Sarah is going to tell us and introduce us to the panel. This panel discussion, time for Q&A, and then we're doing closing remarks and explaining a little bit more about SIA and what's the Transatlantic Asia Conference that is coming up in September. And before I go, I pass it to you, Sarah. I just wanted to say briefly a little bit of what SIA does. So the Startup Investor Accelerator is a learning by doing program for people that want to become angel investors. It's an online 3 months hands-on program to elevate your skills. Whether you are a seasoned investor or you want to get into this ecosystem. It's a great opportunity for you to connect, to diversify your portfolio. A good session today about that. And to learn what angel investing is all about. It's a remote program, and that means that we have people joining from all around Europe and the US, which brings a lot of diverse perspectives into the table. We will share more after the panel about ways to engage, connect, key things that you should know. But for now, I will pass it to you, Sarah, to introduce what's going to be today about.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Chalavis. I am a medical doctor in real life. I work in hospital here in Barcelona. I'm a gastroenterologist and pathologist. I'm also an investigator because I like to investigate, to research besides doing clinics. I'm also a health biotechnology, so I get to mix two of them. But then it was not enough for me. So more or less a year ago, I decided to join this program and start in angel investing. A thing that actually sparked my interest a lot, and then I decided to continue. So I was a co-lead investor in Tax 7, and now I'm going to lead the next round. And actually, I think this ecosystem is great because you get to learn a lot about not only your field, but also other fields, and each startup is a mixture of different blocks that you need to put together, and each one needs to be right in order to work. But today we are going to focus in medtech and biotech. Not only me, but I think I pick up with also from Melissa and Vanessa, my co-panelists. We get a lot of questions about the scientific part, how to evaluate the product in these startups. And so we thought that it might be useful to dedicate a session to this type of healthcare-related startup, which are quite different from all the other startups that angel investors usually screen. So we prepared a small session on this, but feel free to ask questions. We will have time for Q&A after, and happy to answer your question and engage more with you. But now I want to invite Melissa and Vanessa to introduce themselves. They will be my great co-panelists, and we will discuss together all the topics. Thanks, Paula, for the introduction. So Melissa, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see many familiar faces in the audience today. I'm Melissa Van Kirk. I'm based in Barcelona. My education is chemistry and genetics, but I've spent my entire career in biotech and medtech. That's almost 16 years now, or a little over 16 years. I've worked on the CRO side, which is clinical research organization, as well as for biotech and large pharma. Most recently, I moved to the clinical trial site space. I launched a research center here in Barcelona last year, and that was recently acquired. And now I work for a company, or I launched a company called Primary Research Partners, where we bring clinical trials and research to GPs, or primary care physicians, in the UK. For angel investing, what sparked my interest? Maybe boredom. So I had done the traditional investing of stocks and real estate, and it just didn't excite me. I was really looking forward to looking to get closer to founders, closer to innovation, and felt that this was really a full circle moment, allowing me to take the experience I've gained in biotech and medtech and apply it to the startup ecosystem. So really happy to be here today.
Thanks, Melissa. What about you, Vanessa?
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this panel. My name is Vanessa Nogales. I'm also a PhD in biomedicine, and also have an MBA. And currently I work as a managing director of a hospital research institute here in Barcelona. Hospital Del Mar is a beautiful hospital. And a little bit about my background. During my PhD, I did my PhD on epigenetics for cancer. I discovered some interesting biomarkers, predictive biomarkers for chemotherapy response to cancer. And during my PhD, I realized that really for this science to reach the market, there was many steps in the middle that was necessary to be able to transfer this science to companies. And that's how once I finished my PhD, I decided to do some more training on executive management, health innovations. And I actually did another master on digital health entrepreneurship. And that was like my first connection with the investing world and with the investors. I really like it. But well, of this path brought me to my current position. Now between my roles, I also oversee part of the translation of our research institute. And part of this translation is not only licensing patents to already constitute companies, but also constitute our own spin-off. And well, my interest of being part of the angel investing world was also to contribute to that last step of bringing science to real impact. So very happy to be here, and I hope all you enjoy.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. And actually, I really liked what you said about translating what's in the lab, what's in the clinic to the market. So that's a step that we are really looking for. And how do we look for that? So which are the, what makes a startup in medtech and biotech truly investable, in your opinion? And which are the differences between the due diligence that we normally do in any other startup compared to what we should focus on when we look at health-related startup? Which is your experience and thoughts?
Well, in my personal experience, and this may be something very personal, I know other investors in health tech that maybe don't think exactly the same, but I like to say, like, they touch us how the important thing in the investing world is team. In my case, I would say that for medtech and biotech, it is science. Like, I really think that the quality of science behind the product is really important, especially in some specific companies in the medtech and biotech area, no, in those more focus on therapies. Because at the end, we are not talking about a sales-driven business. We are talking about solving real needs. And if a product is solving a real need, eventually the healthcare system is gonna have, they are not gonna have other chance to adopt it. So I think the most important thing is making sure there is a real science. I think also in this field, it's quite easy to confuse some unexpected investors. No, we know all we know about some cases like Theranos is I guess the most well-known case of product that not really there, that they didn't have a real science behind, and that even though they were able to raise quite important amount of money, and unfortunately that's not the only case. For example, now I remember a company that I was reviewing last week, and they have already raised some money. And when I was researching a little bit about the science behind, they only have one scientific article, and it's published in a very low impact factor journal, what is like a quite big red flag to me. And once the science is covered, I would say that, of course, the team is also very important.
And which is like, if you were to give a tip on how to look at the science if you're not an expert, and then we will go also to you, Melissa. What would it be? Like, how would you recommend for a non-expert to just have a surface filter, and then, yes, refer to an expert, but like as a surface, which are the parameters you would suggest for a non-expert investor to look for to just understand whether the science is even there or it's just claims?
In my opinion, if there is someone that really doesn't know much about science, the easiest way is to check what are the scientific publications that talk about that solution and the scientific background. And this is really easy. You go to Google, you put the name of the journal where that scientific paper has been published, and then you put the impact factor. If that impact factor is higher than 20, then you can trust on that science. If that impact factor is below, let's say, don't be very critical, is below 10, then that's really not reliable. Just to do like a very objective way to measure it. Yeah,
it also depends on the field, because in some fields an impact factor of 9 is considered high, whether other fields, oncology, you're right. But
you can get like a factor.
You look for publications and which journals. Are these journals dedicated to that topic, or journals that are talking about something else, low quality, that accepted the article just to publish something? And also, is this author continuously publishing, or published one article in 2012 and then nothing else?
All those are really good points.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa? What's your point of view beside science, and what also concerning science?
Yeah. Well, first, I absolutely agree with Vanessa. In biotech and for medtech, the science must lead, but it's not enough for success. So effective and safe products fail. And so with my experience, I'm biased. I'm looking more into the clinician and commercial insights. I want to understand the regulatory pathway, or more specifically, validate that the team understands the regulatory pathway that's involved, and that they have built a strong team of advisors or leaders around them that are cross-functional, that can advise them on the clinical and the commercial side of things, because the founder is not going to have all of that experience. So in the due diligence, and the one that we just went through, it was a medical device. What we did was we conducted several interviews with KOLs. These are key opinion leaders in the area. And we wanted to understand, is this an actual need? How is this being solved currently. If there's an issue, it's being solved. Maybe not well, but there's some workaround for it. So being able to validate that this product has the potential to fit an issue that the clinicians and the experts see and are experiencing. And that may take several interviews, several different clinicians, because in different markets, different countries, it's different clinicians who are treating that disease or seeing those patients first at times. Then I want to understand the commercial side of things. So like I said before, good products may even get EMA or FDA approval, but then post-marketing they fail because it's not adopted by clinicians, or they have issues with payer reimbursement. So specifically in the US, I'm looking that the team has de-risked and has thought through obtaining insurance codes. They've thought through their strategy for collecting data and evidence that they can get this reimbursed. And then on the network side, I would be looking for early engagement. Do they have interest from partners, potential buyers, that's pharma, or partners for service providing, like clinical research organizations or clinical trial sites? Because that's quite telling. That tells you that those people who know see that this has promise. So that's what I'm looking for in due diligence.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because even though the results are great, we need to be able to use the product in the clinics. So
Yeah.
notoriously, healthcare system is really slow in adopting innovations, and especially in devices and softwares. So we need to make sure that the product not only works and works great, but is also able to be integrated in the clinical workflow, and that operators are going to be wanting to use it, it's going to be useful, it's going to decrease the costs. It has to be something that it's easy to integrate, no? And
Yes.
will facilitate the acceptance from the whole community, because this is what we are looking for. So yeah, not only the science, which is the first, without that, we can eliminate the startup from our further due diligence, but then we have to look at that they understand what regulatory is and what it involves. They had at least early conversation, or they already had a study with their business plan, it's a roadmap, the line, but then that they understand also who is going to adopt it and how it's going to adopt it. And that, how you said, it happens through key opinion leaders. So people that are actually working in the clinic or in whatever the product is aiming, and then actually going to prove that that product is going to be adopted if it actually works, and that's working at the end. So then we can like be more sure that we can back up that that startup and try to see if the results are validated in the trials and then adopted. But if we lack these three columns, well, the chair is going to fall, no, pretty soon. So yeah, but as you said, Vanessa, on the other startup, we look for team. And even though here is not the first we look at, can you like tell us which are like one or two red flags about the team in this field that you, when you hear or see, you say, okay, no, not for me, thanks?
Well, in this field, it's very common that, well, at least in my part of the medtech, biotech area, no, that are usually companies that come from research or academic groups. It's very common, like a scientist will start being the CEO of the company. And in a part that's really good, because you have someone that is very knowledgeable on the science, on the science of the product. And of course, usually they lack of the proper business and I don't know, even sometimes of the regulatory knowledge, because sometimes they are just very basic researchers, basic in the sense of not clinical researchers. And so I always think that we have to look for teams that are multidisciplinary, as Melissa said, that they are very well. They have a very complete group of advisors, key opinion leaders involved. That if they have some, they have already had some conversation with the regulatory agencies. That's a very good point. And yes, basically that I think in this field, especially for therapy companies, no, the business model is a bit different, because usually they just focus on the exit. As I was saying before, no, it's not a sales-driven. Usually, it's not a sales-driven business. It's more let's do phase 1, phase 2, and look for someone that acquired the company. Maybe they have the company in their head since the beginning, no? The one that is going to acquire them. So there is not like the basic business knowledge for any other service company needed since the beginning, I would say. But of course, you have to have some knowledge on it. And usually, most of these kind of researcher profile, they have spent more of their professional life in the laboratory. So you know it very well, Sarah. So there are some skills that are also missing.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree 100%. And if you as a founder, as a CEO, don't have that knowledge, it's okay, but you need to be coachable in that sense and surround yourself and add to your team somebody that is going to take care of that. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And I would add also somebody that is able to translate what you are doing to a non-expert public. My experience has been that I was the one translating in the group of investors what the startup was doing, because the CEO, as you said, was a scientific med or biochemistry that was speaking scientific language that I could understand, but not my fellow investors. So the interest was going down just because it was not general. And this happens also in other startups, I mean. So for me, it was, for example, difficult to understand others. So to speak a language that everybody understands, it's fundamental, especially in this field where actually the aim, we can see how the impact of the startup is, the impact that the startup is going to bring quite easily. So that's the easy part. But tell me how you're going to do it and what's your product actually doing. So yeah, that's a point for me that the CEO, if he doesn't have or she doesn't have, they need to be coachable or add somebody in the team to do that. What do you think, Vanessa?
I agree with everything that you said.
What's your point of view?
I may be more forgiving of founders for biotech and medtech with not having the most polished pitch for the reasons that you've said. They've usually come out of academia, they're scientists, MDs, and they're not necessarily used to this fundraising process, or it might be their first time. So I think first off, I'm a little more forgiving than I may be in other industries. But what you've both said, coachable, disciplined, I think what I'll add to it is realistic. An unrealistic founder when it comes to the risks that they will face, the extended timelines, the costs that are going to be required or needed for research and development. If they don't have a good grasp of that, or they're maybe overly optimistic, it's a big red flag for me because it tells me that they don't quite understand the hurdles and the journey that they have. But the team itself still, when it comes to being an investable company, is a make or break. But I would expand it beyond the founder and say the full team that they've surrounded. Have they pulled in cross-functional expertise? Maybe they're not paying them salary, but they have them as advisors who are guiding them through, as we said before, the regulatory pathway, commercialization. But everything that you've already said before regarding the being coachable is very, very important to me.
Yeah. So if we have a professor with 5 patents, that's not enough. They need to speak our language of startup, of real business, of a venture. So yeah, that's one red flag that can be the risk by bringing into the team other team players. Or we met founders that actually speak both languages. But that's quite rare, I would say. So yeah, I agree. But actually, Melissa, you raised a really good point that I want to discuss more. How would you suggest to handle long timelines that are typical of medtech, but more in biotech and large capital needs? And which are the milestones that really move the needle up and make the startup raise their value compared to other standard businesses, let's say?
So if you want to invest in the space, you're in it for the long haul. Biotech is 7 to 10 years on average, and then medtech a little shorter. You might want to fact check me, but I would say more like 5 to 8 years. So milestones, dividing this up into like interim success stories is important in this space. So milestones, I'm looking for, preclinical data, of course. I'm looking for pre-regulatory meetings. So have they met with the FDA or the EMA to get initial feedback on their research and development plan? Do they have KOLs engaged? These are smaller milestones that may be overlooked if you don't have the area expertise, but they're very, very critical in early stage biotech and medtech companies. Of course, we're all looking for the big milestones. Our first patient into clinical trial, phase 1. We're looking at our readout of data for each of the phases 1, 2, 3. But there are a lot of early stage milestones, such as those pre-IND meetings that can occur that can help inform investors that the team is on the right path.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also these are the main focus of the first phases, where we should see the majority of the investment that the startup is asking already raised, focused into. Because we've seen some of startups like already raising a big commercial team, like prematurely, when the science is not there, regulatory has not been initiated, or they don't have initial feedback. So it's like premature to go out and sell the product, and they actually end up burning that money quite early.
Precious cash,
And it's,
yes.
yeah. And maybe they can put on the slide, yes, we have 10 LOI, we did a small data, we tried our device in a few hospitals, and they said, wow, that's cool. But actually that's quite a waste of money and time at the beginning, where you should focus on science, R&D, and regulatory. Once you
Generating
get that theory,
data.
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, that's just wasting time and money, and actually could be like false traction, let's say, or premature traction that could be misinterpreted if you're not an expert. Oh, wow, they have 100 LOI or whatever, but that actually doesn't mean anything at the end of the day if the science and regulatory are not the main focus, which are difficult milestones to achieve. So it can become dispersive if you already put some money here and there, especially in the early stage where we are focusing. But what about you, Vanessa? What do you think?
I agree with all those. Maybe I will add for a more early stage the protection point. No, there are some research teams that have a good solution, but they haven't worked well on the protection strategy. And the protection is like something that gives a lot of trust and comfort to investor, because it's a very long-term run, and you need some protection for those years coming on the investment.
Yeah.
So how well they have figured out the protection strategy when they did it, no? Because you have to take into account this 10 years period. So have more or less in mind if the patent is also not very old, or if the initial patent is very old, if they have some way to revalue the patent or the new patent on it, on the asset. And I think, as Melissa say, regulatory, that they have already initiated some conversation, that they have a clear roadmap of what are the steps on this regulatory process. And of course, the make or break milestone will be the clinical, not some clinical evidence, even if it is in a small preclinical, in a small clinical trial. Once you have seen some effectivity in patients, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Makes their fundraising much easier once they have some promising data from those early stage human trials. From there, it kind of generates more easily.
It's much easier. And actually, so IP, Vanessa, super important. Maybe in tech space, it's more important to be the first mover. Here, not. You need to protect your data. Once it's out there, it's published, it's quite easy to be replicated. So you need to make sure that you protect very well your data before that stage that it's needed. You need to publish your data in order to be validated and reliable, but you need to protect it before. And then you need to move fast. Otherwise, if you're not able to regenerate your IP, which is a very good strategy that we saw in some startups, you need to move fast, but you need to do that well. You need to make sure, and probably also to have an external validation whether your patents are not conflicting with other patents. So you have to have the freedom to operate. You need to make sure of that. So that's something that we can also ask to the startup to provide us with the study if they are expert or they had an external validation of their IP. That's I would say much more important than doing this in other space.
And sometimes there are some conflicts inside of the research group because, of course, they have to choose between patent it early if they want to publish the article, because you have a PhD student that really wants to publish because it's needed for his PhD or her PhD. And so you always need like someone that they have the knowledge to close to them to do the protection strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And then regarding timelines, I would say that, it feels long, but actually when I heard a few success stories of a few angel investors, their best stories were not shorter than this timeline. So it feels long, but actually when it goes right, it goes really well. So is it worth the waiting? Yes, when you have early indicators that you can bet on that, I mean, it's worth it, because when it goes well, it goes really well, much more than other fields. And actually the timeline, maybe let's see, with AI, it could be even a little bit shorter in the future. Let's see which is the effect of AI in this, because I can think of thousands of applications that will shorten the timings. And also the tendency of big pharma and big industries now are outsource R&D. So they acquire startups pretty early, not at the acceptance level or when the drug is approved or whatever the device, because they are more prone to outsource the first phases of development and then to acquire at the early stage those that are promising, and then they take care of the phase 2, phase 3, or whatever. So it's not 100% true that we always need to wait super long timelines for this type, but in order to be acquired, if the science is really solid and they prove the product works and it will be adopted, maybe the timeline can be quite shorter. But let's move on the investor side. Now, we talked a lot about what startups are doing and how to evaluate them, but which are the common misconceptions that you hear from your fellow generalists and co-investors that are not experts in biotech and medtech about this field, and you want to give your advice and saying, look, you should look at this from another point of view, and timeline could be one, for example, but can you think about other misconception that you heard people say, and you say, I have something to say here?
And I would say also that maybe the importance of have key opinion leaders involved, no? But maybe that's something that in other sector is not that necessary, but here is very crucial. And also the diversity, no? Because there is we are now here talking about medtech and biotech, and actually the business models and the roadmap are really different between I don't know, an artificial intelligence based diagnostic tool and advanced cell therapy. Is we have very different examples of business models and timings and what is important inside of the concept of medtech and biotech.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa? Have you heard some co-investors saying something that you want to say? Oh,
I don't know if it's a misconception.
challenge it.
The blind spot is that market approval, so the product's been approved for market, means success. That doesn't mean success for the company necessarily. We see that often then it's not adopted by the clinicians. It doesn't have a clear commercialization and payer strategy. And so products that I had said before have good data, have demonstrated efficacy, demonstrated safety, they still fail to get acquired, fail to get adopted and sold. So I think it's just a blind spot that can happen in investment where we think through, like, let's just get through to approval, and then this is going to be a successful startup, a successful company or product.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the things I heard the most the investor asking to the startup is, which is your revenue, no? So traction is a different thing in the startup, as we have been saying up to now. So we don't evaluate revenue until the end. So, and probably the startup will exit much, much sooner. So the traction is, as we said, key opinion leader approval, validation of the result, scientific soundness, milestones in regulatory, approval from the scientific community, presentation of the results and international congresses. This is the traction we should look for, not the revenue. We shouldn't really go through the financial, except for the financial that are specific to so grants, applications, how they divided the milestones and how they will invest their money to achieve the milestones in the correct order. But how they, if they have a device, are they outsourcing, how they use the money, but the revenue is not a parameter that we use in the early stage to evaluate these companies. So I would recommend, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to expand on that with the medtech company that was just invested in for Tech 7 is it was critical we understood the regulatory pathway, their milestones, because they had divided up that round and told us exactly, okay, here's our next steps. Here's how much money we need to get to this milestone. Here's how much money we need to get to this milestone. So it didn't all count on their progress, the traction that they needed to make, didn't count on the full amount that they needed. But without them having a clear understanding of their next steps, the path that they needed, they couldn't actually project the finances that was going to require for them to get there. So yes, less on the revenue side, more on, do they have financial discipline? Do they understand what it takes, and can they put a value to it? And a lot of that takes, they should be already reaching out to service providers to get quotes to understand what it's going to cost them to complete that work.
It's a very complex system because the buyer, the payer, and the decision taker, they are all different persons, no? They're different people. So the one who is gonna use it is not the same that the one who is gonna decide what they have to use, and is not the one that is gonna have to pay for it. So it's very difficult to estimate that just because the need is there and the patients really need it, it is actually acquired.
And one good thing we can ask, are you focusing on asking friends? Because even though in Europe we know it's hard, and now I think in the USA also it's getting harder, but these are a very good resource especially in the academia, when you have more access to even though the timeline are super long, I know, I really know, but these are super helpful. These are non-dilutive investments that you get, money that you get. So if your science is solid, if you're actually solving a real unmet clinical need, those grant applications are out there. So why not trying? So I will bring the example of the company we invested in Tech6. The CEO really made me laugh when she said, "We are grant writing machines," and they actually did. And in the end, they succeeded. They just got 1 million pound grant from the NHIS. So that's huge. It's really competitive, and that brings a lot of value, not only in money, but also validating their science. So if you win that kind of grants,
it's a very good tool. Like research group in the academia are always looking for public-private collaborations through this kind of grants. I will just say that it's important to see that they are not losing the focus, because I have seen some of the companies that maybe have some project going on with a grant, and the scope of that grant was totally different of the real what the real product value was. And I remember that when I asked to the CEO, why are you doing this project? And she said, well, it's because the money, we know it doesn't give any value to our product, but they are some incomes. No? So I will also check on that point, make sure that they are focused on the purpose of the company.
Actually, that's sad, because there is no private money going on in the early stages in this space. So actually here is where we can bring value and help this team translate the science into the preliminary results, because the grants are so hard to get, and you have to waste a lot of time to ask for them, and there is no private money going on at the early stages in the academia, or all the spin-offs that we see. Even here in Barcelona, I mean, it's booming, but maybe this is a space where not only Spain but Europe could work a little bit, no, to help this process to move faster. And actually, this would be also a way to restrict a little bit, no, to shorten a little bit the timelines.
Maybe this will be an interesting topic to bring up here. There has been a recent initiative from Next Generation funding, from the Funds Next Generation from the European Commission, that is have been given to venture capitals to invest in like very early projects that will be eventually translate to an spin-off. And it's something very recent, very new. It haven't been done before. And now, like the Research Institute, we are in continuous conversation with the venture capital firms to try to see how are we going to set the conditions, because they want like a high equity in the final spin-off. And something that, of course, in the academia, we are not very used to negotiate, no?
So, 100%.
There is like kind of a shaking in the ecosystem because of this last very big grant from the Next Generation Fund.
Yeah, 100%. I agree 100%, and I hope we will see this in the short term, because the healthcare space, it's one of the most important and basic needs that we have that will never go away. So it doesn't matter. It's gonna be even more important. So so if you have other points that you want to bring up, otherwise we can start with some Q&A. What do you think, Paula? So we can leave some time for discussion with the...
I will suggest, like, for people to think their questions, write them in the chat. I'm really interested in this conversation. It's just so easy to follow you and the way that you explain. So thank you so much for that.
Like if other people want to just either write in the chat or raise your hand and ask the question.
Well, someone has a question. I do have one, because you said that there is no private money going into this space, and I was wondering, like, why you think that, and how now that you have two sides of the coin, like as an investor yourself and in the space, are we trying to bridge the gap, educating and bringing those words together, closer together?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a little money into this space at the early stages because institutional money comes later. So when some preliminary results are already there, and that's the big part, no? Bring the preclinical or the idea, let's say you have the idea, to bring that idea to the institutional money interest, it's the majority of time that it takes. So that's where probably, yeah, it's risky, but as other businesses, maybe we do understand that, but to explain that to a non-expert public, it's very difficult. But it's not more or less risky than other businesses. So it's to bring attention and simplify what is happening into academia or whatever else, trying to develop their MVP, I would say, no? That's the stage where money is lacking, I think. And yeah, unless we see preclinical data, it's really, really hard to go there in the healthcare space, whether if we have an idea of a SaaS or a tech product, it's much easier to give the money to the founder to develop that. This is my perception. But I don't know if Melissa and Vanessa have different perception, but I think that's a big gap there, and hopefully it will be filled in the short term.
Yeah, there is a big gap. I was thinking now in another step of the process, that is from when you already have some preclinical results and want to do the phase 1 clinical trial. And something interesting that happened during COVID is that there was more public funding going on. So, for example, here in Spain, we have some specific grant to do academical clinical trial. So something that happened now that is interesting is that we have some patents on products that are going to go to phase 1 clinical trial because it's already funded by this public money. And it's already all the study, the cost of all the studies covered by this. And for example, now we are talking with different venture capitals to see if it will be feasible to create a spin-off around this patent. And what happened is that they are all waiting for the phase 1 clinical trial results. So no one we have already the phase 1 already covered by public funding. And we cannot constitute a company until the end of that phase 1 because no one was to invest on constituting a company until we have those results. No, so it's very interesting when the different government policies design new funding tools in different steps of this translational chain, because it does have an impact on the ecosystem and how if they are actually going to be helpful to create value or not. This is another thing that the companies, Medtech and Biotech companies should look for, no? How if they can actually finance part of their clinical trial with public funding, because it's a very interesting funding financial tool.
Yeah, to expand on that. Yeah, angel invest.
I see a question from Mariana when you're done.
Angel investing is so critical to do what you just said, Vanessa, is to bridge the gap. So your public funding, your grant funding can be, it's wonderful, it's non-dilutive, but it can be very restrictive. They can tell you exactly what you use the money for, where you use the money, the timing that you use the money. And so there are a lot of things in between that might not be covered under that grant, from IP licensing, for example, money to help raise more funds. So the cost of covering to raise funds is not included in your grant. And so there's this space where these companies often get stuck from going academic, grant funding, getting lab work, to where they have data that they can actually sell to VCs, because your VCs are writing much larger checks. They're looking for validation of your preclinical data. They want your IP to be rock solid. They want to see a team formed And those things cost. So just to emphasize the true importance of angel investors in the ecosystem for healthcare innovation.
Yeah, completely. I'm going to read the questions in the chat, and we can give some short answers. So Mariana is asking, I'm exploring public-private collaborations, but I find public institutions are looking for royalties, big funding, they take long time, etc. But also they give some credibility and partnership. It's a bit of a dilemma. What advantages and disadvantages do you see in these collabs if you are a private funder startup? What's your opinion as an investor? What do you think?
I don't know which, maybe it's in Spain, no? My experience with public research institute is that we are not very greedy. Like if we ask for royalties, usually is a small percentage of royalty. We really value about public-private collaborations is the funding, the money. And as Melissa was saying, usually if they come from a scientific agreement, from a service agreement, then that money means that it's going to be very flexible. Well, it's very different to the money that we are used to have from the grants that, as Melissa said, is we only can spend in very particular things. So from that point, the research group at the academy, they are very interested on this public-public collaboration. I will say that maybe she can go a really pushy and they will be quite flexible with the royalty. This is my impression. I don't know. It may be very different from one research institute to another. I can also, if you are interested, Mariana, you can write an email to me or something, contact me. If I know any research group, I can talk to them.
Yeah. I will, if you have to add something to add, Melissa, otherwise I will read another one.
We can go to the next.
So we will try to answer all of them. I wonder if you could give a bit more detail about how just because a product or the device passes clinical trial, it might not be adopted. In the hospital system, who are the decision makers? Is it procurement teams or doctors themselves? Are KOL academics or they are the decision makers in hospitals? I can explain the question if not clear. I think it's clear.
I think it's clear. I'm really curious to hear from Vanessa and you, Sarah. You're both in hospital settings, so you understand the inner workings. I'll speak from the sponsor side, from the biotech side, where it's been difficult for adoption. So Liv, the challenge that I have observed is you got the product, it did quite well in clinical trial because they were forced, right? They had the protocol that they're following. They have a certain number of participants to enroll, and that product is with the research team that's focused on following a protocol and collecting data on this product from these patients. So it's controlled, very, very controlled, and it's in the research unit in most cases. But then once it moves out of that and more into a clinical setting, there are many other options for diagnosing, for treating these patients. And I think it's the same of human nature. We go to what we're familiar with. And so if something new has been brought in, there is a resistance to change. It just takes time to integrate it to the processes, systems, to educate. And if it hasn't been well planned and the product is, for example, tricky to store, hard to prepare, then the resistance to adopt only increases. So from the point of just designing the product, making sure that the product is stable at perhaps room temperature, that it can easily be transported from the pharmacy to where the patient's being dosed, are all things that have to be thought through, the logistics of it as you're designing the product outside of the clinical trial. And these things can cause it to fail when it goes to clinical adoption. That's what I saw from the more industry side.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So go ahead, Vanessa.
Totally, no, yes, totally. It is. I mean, I also think this is again an example of how it changed depending of the kind of company we're talking about in the medtech and biotech sector. Like it can be very different from a medical device or a therapy. But like this, regarding who take the decisions, the system work very different according with the region of the country where you are moving. No, I work in the public sector, and I always thinking about how to implement your solution in the healthcare public system. And in that case, it's very important to have show some quality life, cost efficiency. So is your product really serving quality lifetime in the patients that regarding also the cost effectiveness for the healthcare system. So al final, at the end, the healthcare system is looking for healthy workers to contribute. No? So what you want is they are always going to care about what is the target population, is older, is younger, are we talking of active people that are stopping being productive for being in the hospital, how many days of hospitalization we are saving with the product, things like that. And all these aspects that have to be considered. Also scalability, as Melissa was saying. For example, now there is a big problem on advanced therapy. Cell therapies is like one of the most trending topic right now in the biomedical field, like using cells of tissue of the body to cure some pathologies, mostly in cancer. But it is very difficult to scale into the whole healthcare system. It can be produced locally, very easy, but it cannot be produced and then distribute easily between the whole hospital. No? And then that's a very big challenge, that the science is there. Maybe we will have a good product to cure people and to cure cancer, but the system is not prepared to adopt it.
Yeah, 100%. So also in the hospitals, we have workflows, we have protocols, we have guidelines. So you need to make sure that your solution is integrating into this and also is following current guidelines. So one example is the company we invested in, Tax6. They actually based their product on the last update of the clinical guidelines in their space. And that's giving you already, you are sure that there's interest to change that part of the current workflow, because the guidelines said there is a need here. Okay, so, and the guidelines are written by KOL, they are international, they are applied by all the clinicians, all the hospitals, all the healthcare facilities that are out there. So one way to check that earlier than waiting for approval and let's see if it's adopted, it's checking with KOL, which can be a mixture of clinicians and managers, and depending on the country and if it's private or public healthcare, but also go to the guidelines. These are usually quite aligned between US, Europe, Asia. So we know where the workflows are going. We know which are the current algorithms. And also there is a section where there is the research agenda and the current up-to-date and really felt unmet clinical needs from the community are there. So when I saw that in Tax6 winner, I said, yes, these guys are going to a space where there's a lot of interest. Because also you can bring into the market a product that works, that is easy to adopt, that could be, lower the costs, but it's not really solving a huge problem. So it's not a priority. Maybe it will be adopted from some clinicians, maybe others would prefer to stay with their old systems that they know very well and they have been used to use for years. The patients are more familiar. So you really, really need to go in order to be scalable and in the sense that we think a startup, a unicorn in this space, let's say, you really need also to go in a space where there is a lot of interest and it's a priority for hospitals or the cities you are aiming to sell your product to. And also another thing that I love that Vanessa said, you don't need to look at the cost of this single device or whatever or the drug or whatever. Cost effectiveness is the term we use in healthcare space. So is this actually saving a lot of other costs? Hospital stay, as you said, quality of life, other drugs that I'm giving. Is this one-time drug or is a lifetime long treatment? So this is what we evaluate, not the cost of the single device. And I bring this up because I heard during one of the company pitching that the price that the company set for the single device was too high in their mind. But actually with that device that was used in a mini-invasive type of treatment was actually saving a lot of cost compared to the current surgical solution, let's say. So yeah, that's another. I see if there is other questions.
And Liv hands up.
I lost them. Sorry, Paula, if the chat comes before.
That's okay. There's one question about the VCs. I just wonder because that was Liv's question. If she wants to say something now, as her hand is up.
Thank you, Sarah. That was for everyone. That was a really helpful explanation. I just wanted to know, how often do those guidelines change? Is it something that's constantly evolving? So if a product is out there and the technology is there, then if there's enough KOLs involved, then those guidelines can change based on the technology?
Usually I would say every 5 years. That's not a strict rule. Every country, not every country has their national guidelines, but then what I look at is international guidelines. So US, Europe guidelines, Asia guidelines, and usually those are renewed every 5 to 8 years, depends on the field. Okay, so it's not something that comes up every year. Then if you have to refer to an expert to tell you what to look for. But I wouldn't recommend you to do it completely alone, at least at the first times. But what I'm saying is that we can have early indicators that the product will be needed before waiting to the actual market adoption phase. This is what there are tools that we can use. So besides the guidelines, we can use KOL, the preclinical results, validation of the results, reproducibility. There are a lot of other things. But what I was saying is that we don't need to wait, as you asked, the phase of market adoption to see if there is interest in the space for the solution they are bringing. That was my point.
Thank you. She's clapping.
Guys.
Thank you, Liv. There's a question by Raul in the chat that says, what is the role of angel investor in the very early stages versus VCs?
Here I have a very particular experience, really, because I don't know if it is because in the academia we are used to directly contact with VCs where we are in the time that we are doing the research project. No, so we have this link very early. But my experience is that because this project needs a lot of funding, what you want is that VCs to be committed since the beginning, since the first early stage, maybe putting a little money, but they have done a first commitment to a project, and you will have some kind of well-founded investors that can give some guarantee to finish, to complete all the phase 1 that you probably need. Here, where an angel investor can add, I think they are usually, in my personal experience, they usually invest in a little bit more unpredictable projects. So, for example, I am part of another business angels club that is specifically for life science, and most of the deal flow that it arrives to us are companies that don't get the VC funding because this is usually put their money like in a very reliable projects. No, that they, I think was Melissa was commenting before. They want the team, they want everything to be such very. While the angels investor are a very good opportunity for those projects that maybe are not very mature in the early stage, but could also be promising. No, and that's the money that helps a lot of projects, because here in the ecosystem we have several VCs specialized on healthcare and life science, but of course it's small compared with other big ecosystems. No, so we have many other projects that don't get that VC funding.
Yeah, I think an interesting space is exactly this for angel investors, a little bit earlier than the stage where VC are interested. So being a little bit more risky in your investment, but yeah, when it goes well, it goes really well. And also a good idea is to invest within a group of angels. So probably 5K are not enough to enter the healthcare space. It's not because it's not 5Ks are not needed, but because the money that is needed in order to reach milestones is much more.
Really?
Because everything we mentioned in this session, regulatory, the team you need to build, the material you need, it's not something that you can do in the garage of your house. So yeah, to pull together the money in a group and be significant at an early stage could be an interesting space to enter for dedicated or interested angel investors that want to back up this kind of startup. And actually, we could also be helpful in coaching some of them in the needs to translate the science into business, as we mentioned before. So it would be a good moment for angels to help these teams early on, telling them, look, you need also to think about this regulatory. Let's put your milestones down and let's try to draw a picture of this. That could be an interesting space where you can bring added value compared to a VC that comes when you already have all these things in place. But depends on the risk appetite that we have. But I think that the more informed we are, and if we collaborate together, we could, it's a really, really good space to go in. I don't know if you, Melissa, have something.
Just very quickly, it's something I didn't fully appreciate, but I've enjoyed so much about angel investing is what you just said. Like there's an opportunity to handhold some of these founders and really provide mentorship with to them through their funding cycle. So we're often the first sounding board that they have as they exit academia. They don't have always the experience for fundraising. So we're giving them a bit of confidence and feedback in order for them to get to the next stage. So yeah, this has been something that has been unexpected and a bonus in my experience in angel investing.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
Raul, yes, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you for your answers.
Great. I just wanted to add what John says in the chat about this question. He says, angel investors are able to invest in things that they care about without the same constraints of VCs. They also have the ability to help early projects to gather the proper team, similar to what Melissa was saying, and they provide social validation for the team. They can invest before any of the regulatory hurdles have been even started. So it is that first leap of trust between the investors and the team that happens. So that's really good. This is going to be the last question by Nadia, and then we will wrap up and go to a little bit of Sia. Nadia asks, how to prove that interest exists? What would be the independent source of truth?
For me, something that gives me a lot of trust is when I see like clear interest for key opinion leaders, like good key opinion leaders. Yesterday I was reviewing a company that they did some format that I love it. They did like this kind of interview to each one of their advisors, that they were all very good key opinion leaders, talking about technology and the company. It was a 3-minute video, that give you a lot of confidence of it, because these people, they are like very well-known physicians in hospital, or very well-known group leader in the academia, in the research group. So that's something that I think builds confidence.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree 100%, and like validate that these are real key opinion leaders, because sometimes I also saw claiming we have key opinion leaders, but these people were either working in similar spaces but not exactly that space, or were like the actual patent holders, like these professors with patents that were filed 10 years ago, that were holding on them and hoping that somebody else would so yeah, validate that these are true. That could be part of the due diligence you want to do. So contact your friends and your network and ask, are these true key opinion leader? Or check in the internet. It's quite, once you learn what to look for, it's quite easy. Sorry, Melissa, interrupted you.
No. Nadia, it's the same as you would for any other industry. You're going to the customers, the users of the product. And the only difference for healthcare is those are the clinicians, those are the physicians treating the patients that end up ultimately getting the product. But to really prove that interest exists, what Vanessa said is hear from them. You'll know in their voice and how they react to it, whether there's a need and are they excited about it, by going directly to those sources. So with TAC, that's what we were able to do, is just talk to the startup and get some referrals from KOLs and clinicians that they had worked with, and ask if you could give them a call. And also within your own network, what doctors do you know that you can reach out to say, is this a problem? And does this product excite you? Do you think this is something that could make a difference? And understand why, dig into it. Why would this make a difference?
Also, maybe something that we haven't mentioned of is what is the difference between the effect of that product, of that solution, compared with the current standard of care. No, we always have to compare with regarding the cost effectiveness that we were talking about before. We have always to compare how much money is going to save this product compared to the current product that is being used, the standard of care for that need.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much. That has been amazing. You're talking about the program, so I feel like this is a great way to screen share and to talk about how you met each other, I will say, how we connected, and the way that what brought us here and why are we doing this really. So what the Melissa, Vanessa, and Sarah are talking about is the TAC program, the Transatlantic Angel Conference Angel Investor Learning Program that SIA does. We have one starting in September, and it's a hands-on online training program for people that want to learn how to become angel investors or want to perfect their skills. We go through the entire startup investing journey. So we review real startups. There are real pitches. There's an actual competition, a real investment. We do conduct due diligence. There are due diligence teams. There is a lead, and you get to learn from other investors and other people that are new, also doing this for the first time, or people that have been doing this for some times already. And you make a decision as a group. So it is really designed to build your confidence and sharpen your skills and to get more comfortable into this space. So when a lot of the things that they were talking today about how they help different startups and founders translate the early stage, translate the technical and deep themes into a language that everybody can understand, because the program has a cohort of a diverse group. So having like Sarah in the last cohort, for example, has been really useful. Melissa as well. Actually, Melissa, you were the due diligence lead for Reflow DX, the winner of Track 7. So well done. That's really great and useful, at the time of translating and connecting those one-on-ones. The next program starts in September, and it's 16 sessions over 3 months. It is fully online. So we have people joining from different parts of the world, especially Europe and the US. The startups are also from these places. And until tomorrow, we have an early bird. So this is the opportunity to really dig deeper into the connections and how you want to join. I would share the link in the chat soon, but the QR code there, it goes to express your interest. You are not applying directly, you are expressing interest, and we will follow up to see if the program is a good fit for you, if you can understand more, if you want to know more. Sarah is one of the co-lead investors of the upcoming program, and Liv Harrower, that was in the call, is in the call as well. And they will be the ones leading this cohort. Do you want to share some words on that, Sarah?
Yeah, so for me, as I said at the beginning, it was a really nice journey that I chose to repeat as a lead investor to take the lead on the deal negotiation and building the fund. And it has been really fun to engage with founders, but especially with co-investors. We got to share our expertises, put our brains on the table, and it was a really nice mix. Not only people were asking a lot of things to me, but I was also asking a lot of things to them. So we exchanged a lot of knowledge, and we ended up learning a lot and not only making what's hopefully a really good investment for the future. So for me, the real added value is also the community you get out of this, not only the potential investment that you are doing. So I hope that to meet new people in this TAC 8 round and to grow our group and network and expertise and points of views.
Thank you, Sarah. I think your story with how you ended up co-leading this upcoming program with Liv is quite beautiful, because you met at TAC 6, and then you were like, I want to learn more about, because Liv is a CFO. So I want to learn more about numbers, and I can talk more about this, my part, and let's do it over a glass of wine, because we're both in Barcelona. So I think that's a lot of what the program is about: diversity, bringing people together, how much deeper you can go, and basically it's like you get out as much as you put in. I keep hearing that you gain each other as friends, but you started the program as like an education and an investment in yourself first. So I want to, appreciate that and take a moment, because you want to have to be willing to do that part.
Yeah, true, 100%. So for me, it's I get intellectually stimulated by people that are like-minded, but not from my exact working space. So this is what I found in this space of angel investing: people that are motivated to learn, to support, to coach, to build something together. So for me, it has been a space where I grew friends, not only co-investors, and I think that we have a lot to talk about over wine or food or whatever it is. So it's not felt as a job, or it's more a part that I enjoy. But meanwhile, I love learning. So in the meanwhile, I'm down to learn more about finance and the other blocks. So this is why I've been repeating also the program.
Thank you for sharing your story, for staying and really trusting the process. We also have, as part of the program, because it's real investment, we need the startups to invest, startups that are ready to receive funding. We have the opportunity for between 60 to 80 startups to be part of the program, and there is an investment, there's a winner at the end of the program that receives between $100,000 and $200,000, which is the pool that is created by put by the investors that are part of the program. It's a great opportunity to compete and to prepare the pitch, and we give a lot of feedback, and it's industry agnostic. That means that we are open to different industries. It just happened that the last two winners at Intac have been in the health space. But then there are also other ways to stay in touch with us, not only the program. We do a lot of events around Europe. We do many of these sessions to learn more. We post a lot in LinkedIn as well. This is our LinkedIn page. A great place to stay in touch on what we're up to, what we're doing. We have many events coming up. We host Angels and Beers around different cities in Europe. We do open coffees for entrepreneurs and investors. We do these investors insights that are specific topics online and in person. So have a look at our page and follow us, and let's stay in touch. I think before this, thank you, Sarah, I will pass it to you for the final wrap up. But I wanted to say that it's been a pleasure and thank you.
No, thank you, Paula. So yeah, we talked a lot about a lot of things. So I wanted to ask my co-panelists, which would be their advice for investors that want to start in this space? What should they start from? What they should avoid doing their first angel investment in healthcare related space?
I'm going to continue being annoying about checking the quality of science behind the products. And once that is done, also check about this diversity of the team, that it is complete, that they have key opinion leaders involved, and the three checks, the three milestones that we were talking about, like protection, regulatory, and clinical trial.
Thanks, Vanessa. And what about you, Melissa?
Just to emphasize what we talked about before, maybe be a little bit more forgiving on polished pitches, look for collaborative teams. And remember, the science is very important, but sexy science does not equate to a promising product. So there's a lot more that needs to be considered.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And from my side, to be able to do this, if you're not experienced on judging what is good science or what is a good team or milestone regulatory, you should do that at the beginning with somebody that understands the market space and can drive you during this first investment or investments. It's a good way to pull more money, but also to get more advice and to do that in a group where this person is not only an expert that you call and will give you an advice in 2 minutes because this is the time that we have at night when we finish working, but it's also him or herself interested in doing the investment. That's a good way to get started. So join a group where there's somebody that understands that, and you can share, as we said, expertises and do this together, at least at the beginning. Then you can move on along. But it's always nice to do this in a group. So yeah, I think we are done. If there are no more questions, or you people feel free to contact us, and for wherever we are based in Barcelona, but we travel a lot, so feel free to connect on LinkedIn or wherever, and we are happy to continue the discussion and meet each other better. And thanks, Paula, for your operation magics. Thanks,
you.
Melissa and Vanessa.
So much.
It was great to share this with you.
It's been really insightful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Adios.